I thought I'd start with a general piece today about, because I'm really sensing anxiety now about all the things that people are going to have to go through Christmas. And part of me thinks this is all just, I mean, it's meant to be a really lovely time of year, but it seems to come with huge amounts of stress for everybody, and therefore part of me thinks it should all just be cancelled. So there. And I was wondering, whose fault is it? And I've decided it's the fault of the patriarchy. It's all of them, all of that. So I'm not sure if I can do anything about it right this week, but maybe next week I'll try and deal with the patriarchy. In the meantime, I don't think that's going to stop Christmas. So at some point we're going to have to deal with it. And I was trying to think that how can I give you confidence that you can get through this year? And it really is reframing Christmas in your head, guys. It's all about consumption, 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 which is just ridiculous. And in amongst all that consumption is eating and eating and eating and drinking and drinking and drinking. And therefore it becomes really hard to resist. And all it is people selling shit to us. That's all it is. That's not joy. That's not moments with family. That's not love. That's not affection. And even if you do believe in Christ, I don't actually think that's what Jesus wanted from Christmas either. So somehow we need to reframe this in our heads and be really rebellious and be really belligerent and go, I'm not going to be sucked in by all of this rubbish and all of this crap, because this Christmas, this year is about me. It's about me treating myself well. It's about me doing things that I want to do, me not feeling guilty. The amount of guilt I'm feeling from the group already is overwhelming. If you don't want to do something, don't do it. Don't feel guilty. I know that's really easy for me to say because I feel that guilt too. But really, don't. Begin to say no to some things this year so you can say yes to some things that make you happier. Right? That's an order. I don't do orders very often. I'm not very good at it. So let me just see who else just come in. Ooh, right. So let's reframe this Christmas as something that we're going to take control of. We own it. We own it. We're going to do it sober. We're going to smash the patriarchy after Christmas. But in the meantime, we're going to have a brilliant Christmas, one of our choosing, and design a Christmas that works for us. Really put some thought into it and think about what it is that you want to get out this Christmas. I don't want you all to feel upset and anxious about it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that we should feel upset and anxious about just a tiny part of the year. It's ridiculous that we have to work really hard to earn money to then spend it on loads of crap each time of year. I know that's slightly political in its nuance, but really, if you think about it, it's all of those bits that are making us unhappy. So try and factor in some things that are good for you this year that you really want to do. Saying that, because I like popcorn and the kettle black, I'm using this webinar as an excuse to drink lots of drinks. And so I've got some drinks for you. And also I want to talk to you about how you can actually make this Christmas a journey of exploration that might deal with some of that discomfort about not doing what you normally do. When I first gave up drinking, I went bonkers at looking at alternative drinks. Everything from herbal teas and getting excited about finding a new herbal tea to have in the evening as I went to bed, and created this new ritual of getting a tea. And my girlfriend at the time, I'd get us both the tea together and I'd find a nice pot and I'd find all sorts of interesting combinations. It became a little bit of part of the journey of changing my drinking. I created this excitement around finding new drinks. I even bought a soda stream. I ordered tonic cordials that were made by hipsters in America and got it posted over, made my own tonics in a soda stream. I looked at all sorts of ways to do stuff. So I wanted to cover some of that today because I think one of the joys that you can get out of this Christmas is spending a little more time thinking about what it is that you want. And part of me, and what you want to drink. And part of me thought, what used to happen at Christmas? I used to spend a lot of money on a slightly more expensive gin, and then I would watch other people drinking it and get very anxious because they were drinking my expensive gin. I bought that for me as a special bottle of gin, and I started to feel jealous and upset that people were drinking my really nice gin. God, that's not really sharing, is it? Oh, how miserable is that? And then I thought, well, actually, are there drinks that you can have that are non-alcoholic that you feel just as protective of because you've worked really hard to find them and that you've got them in especially for you? And that if somebody else drank them, would you be upset? And I was thinking about that the other day because at Square Root, whose drinks I really love, they do small batch craft sodas, have produced these drinks here. And I know it'll be back to front for you, but this is a wheat beer shandy. It's got a tiny, tiny amount of a beer made by Pressure Drop Brewery. And they made this small banger shandy, which is very citrusy. It's got a lot of lemon and clementine in it. And I went to order some. They sent us a free sample, and I went to order some, and there wasn't any left. They've sold out. And so I stole this away from Charlie, our intern, because I decided this was mine, because there's none of this left, and I'm going to protect this drink because I want to save it for Christmas. And I suddenly thought, that's really interesting. I found a drink that I really like, and I want to keep it for myself. It's special. And I think we deserve to have a drink that's special for us at Christmas while everyone else is, flivving around, spending exorbitant amount of money on alcohol. There's no reason why we can't spend less money on something that's really special for us that we put aside for ourselves, especially for Christmas. That's why I wanted to talk about Christmas drinks today and use it as an excuse to just basically drink loads of sugary stuff. So that's why I think spending a little bit of time for you this Christmas on finding those drinks is really important. Now is a really good time because if you're going to buy it online. And I'm also going to go through some possible suggestions, not only of places to buy, but talk you through some of the drink options. So I really want you to ask me questions about all sorts of different types of drink and what your drink alternatives might be, but also share any suggestions you've got yourself. And then I'm going to follow this up all over the next week with links and suggestions, because I'm not going to just pile them all into one webinar thread. So I'm just going to check what anyone's saying. Everyone's just saying hello, hello, hello. Right, okay. So, drinks when you're not drinking anymore. Is a really interesting subject because I think, because we've been doing all this work with pubs as well, the one thing I've realised is that pubs will never ever be able to cater totally for the needs of somebody not drinking alcohol, because we basically get fussier. We'd always be happy to drink, if really your preference was for a posh gin like a Sipsmith, but all that the pub had was a London gin, you would still go, oh yeah, well, all right then, I'll have the London gin. You would compromise. But we're now far more sophisticated than that because we're not drinking anymore. And we're far more likely to go, well, I'd rather have a tap water than a really crap J2O. That's the bottom line. And my taste will be different to Yusi's taste, will be different to Janet's taste, will be different to everyone else's tastes. So now we begin to get such a wide range of variation in what we really want as a drink. The chances are a pub will never necessarily be able to satisfy all of our needs. But for me, that's really interesting because we've got fussier. We will not compromise anymore, and therefore we want to be a bit more demanding. And at least when you shop for yourself, you can be a bit more demanding. You can buy some things that you want to try. You can buy some things that you know that you might like already and make sure you've got them in. But you can also get in a variety. And one of my top tips for you is just not to go, oh, I'm just going to get in an orange juice, or I'm going to get one bottle of Botonique in or whatever. But instead to go, right, my tastes are wide and varied. What I want at lunchtime is different to what I want in the evening, is different to what I might want on Saturday, which is different to what I might just feel like on another day. And therefore I want to stock my fridge with lots of options. I want to have lots of different flavours of cordials. And I don't care if it fills up the whole of the cupboard. It's okay, because it's not going to go off and it's not going to be drunk by anybody else because they'd be too busy getting pissed. So that's fine. So first of all, give yourself permission to buy quite a bit. The chances are some of it's a lot cheaper than alcohol anyway. There might be a few bits that aren't. But give yourself permission to get in a variety of flavours. They'll last you well into the new year. Okay, Neil had some sparkling wine from Sainsbury's, so we're going to come back to that. And I'm going to talk about sugar. Okay. So get in a wide range of options. Have a look what's in your supermarket, have a look what's online, have a look what you can make yourself, have a look at really interesting mocktail recipes, get in some ingredients, see all the amazing things you can do with ginger. Ooh, that reminds me, you see, there's a ginger drink in the cupboard. Could you get it for me? It's under the sink. It's got a picture of a granny on the front. Who was saying that there's pictures of granny? Anyway. So use it as an excuse to try out lots of things. You know what? If you don't like something, you don't have to keep it. You can give it away. Thank you very much. This is what I wanted to get. I'm going to share that with you as well. So first of all, get lots of stuff in and make this part of your alcohol-free journey. It's amazing how much of an expert you can become. If any of you have heard me talk about tea, it's utterly ridiculous. I can talk about tea better than I could ever talk about wine, and I used to think I knew a little bit about wine. I'm now a complete tea snob. I can knock the spots off any wine buff with my knowledge of tea, and I never used to drink tea until 2 years ago. I mean, it's ridiculous, but people are genuinely interested if you know something about a particular drink type. So embrace it. It's a bit of learning, but it's a bit of learning without an exam and a tasty drink at the end of it. So retraining your taste buds, make it a journey, make this part of your distraction. It's a great distraction. Share ideas with other people on the group, but also, spend time looking online. There's nothing wrong with spending some time looking after your needs and making sure you've got something to drink this Christmas. And recognise that you may want to taste more than one thing in an evening. Because, to be honest, I don't want to drink 5 appetisers in an evening. I might want an appetiser, I might want a tea, I might want a beer, I might want, a number of different flavours and sensations. Because repeating the drink that you drink over a course of an evening is only worth doing if it's got alcohol in it. And we don't touch that anymore because it makes us twats, basically. So let's not do that. Okay, Jackie, I'm going to take a note of that. Cold brewing. Sugar, cold brewing. Okay. The other thing I wanted to touch on was the fact that some people have partners and friends who go, oh, well, you're just substituting an alcohol-free beer for the real thing, and that's dangerous. Let me tell you now, that's a piece of wisdom that has come through the years. It's mainly predominated by the language that AA, because a lot of the language we have about giving up drinking is dominated by what AA says about drinking. Lots of good things AA says about drinking, but the fact they come from a disease-based model means that that every day of your life you're resisting alcohol, and therefore you shouldn't go near substitutes because it will trigger you. I don't believe you, our members, are suffering from a disease. I suspect that, like me, you're suffering from being more stupid than we really should be. And what we need to do is retrain ourselves. And so drinking an alcohol-free beer, unless it makes you want to go and drink alcoholic beer, or drinking non-alcoholic wine, unless it makes you want to go and drink those wines, is absolutely fine. Now, the chances are you might not like them, and I'll come on to that in a minute. Or you may decide that you found something more interesting instead, because once that winey taste hasn't got alcohol in it, it's not actually that interesting anymore. And I will touch on that briefly. But I don't think, just knock people back who just go, oh, well, you've only substituted it for something else. Because no, I'm drinking an alcohol-free beer. It's got no alcohol in it. It's got no added sugar in it. It doesn't stop me getting up in the morning. It doesn't give me a hangover. I can still go to the gym. I'm not making an idiot of myself. I'm not falling on the floor. It's not making me pee all the way through the night. That isn't by no way substituting one thing for another. It's not going to make me addicted. So just shut those people down and say, well, actually, these are all good drinks in their own right. They're all still using ingredients that are, naturally available and don't have to be made alcoholic. If you think about it, making a drink alcoholic is the more unnatural process rather than having a drink that hasn't got alcohol in it at all. So if you want to just stand your ground and say, well, actually, what I like is a less sweet drink. De-alcoholized and non-alcoholic versions of alcoholic drinks tend to be less sweet because they don't add things in. I'll also come back to something that's also interesting, which is that we sometimes don't like the taste of something like a de-alcoholized wine or a beer. And I think you should give them a go and give them a fair crack of the whip, because we actually learn to like alcohol. We don't naturally like it. Our body naturally repels it. If you remember when you were little and your family used to stick up, whiskey next to your nose and go, "Smell that, small child," and we'd all go, "Ew," because our body's naturally going, ew, that's poisonous and it's slightly wrong and I don't know what to do about it. I don't like that smell. And actually what we do is we learn to like alcohol because of the effects it has. And it does have some great effects, you know. That's why as human beings we do drugs of all sorts of different kinds, including coffee and all those sorts of things. But it is a learned behaviour. We learn to like it because we like the effects. We naturally don't like the taste, but we can learn. And that means that we can learn to like non-alcoholic drinks as well. We can, like I've done, begin to develop an affection for beer. I don't drink it that often, so when I do drink it now, it feels really exciting and special. But you can begin to retune your taste buds and actually think through the drink that you're having. And once you realise that you have to treat it as a drink in its own right, rather than a substitute for something you're not having anymore, that reframing in your head makes that feel very different. So give things a fair crack of the whip. You may still not like it, but you know what? At least you've tried and you've tried some different things. And if you're trying to replicate the taste of alcohol, you're not really going to get it, because alcohol's got an astringency to it. It has an immediate, well, not quite an immediate, it has an immediate impact on your senses, because we're used to associating it with all sorts of changes in our brain. So people often feel relief of stress when they open a bottle of wine or a bottle of beer before they've even drunk any of it, because of our mental association with that making us relaxed. So we don't have those mental associations with a soft drink. We don't have, and so we have to learn different things. We don't have all those sensory changes. So I can't actually remember the point that I was making. It was a really good point, I'm sure. Yes, we won't ever be able to replicate that feeling of alcohol because it's not alcohol. We'll never have that astringency. We'll never quite have that that feeling, those associations happen because these drinks we know are not got alcohol in, and so that mental association isn't made. Okay, but so there'll never be anything that hits the mark. And I know occasionally we all hope to find it. We all tried, the other week we had a lunch and we all tried a drink. We were all like, oh, that's nice, it's got something in it. And then we all realised that, oh yeah, that's something in it that we all quite liked. That was some alcohol, and they'd accidentally bought us an alcoholic drink. And there isn't a non-alcoholic drink that will replicate that immediate sting of alcohol. So you're just going to have to live with it. And that's why you need to add some variety, which is going to be your spice of life. So that's my view on substituting and some of those things. You can develop an alcohol-free drink. So just to answer you, Jackie, an alcohol-free drink doesn't affect your brain in the same way as alcohol does. So you might have an association between this being a drink that you do at the end of the evening to relax, but it won't be an association that's been hardwired into your brain, I don't think, because it doesn't actually do that for you. You might associate it, an alcohol-free drink, with a new routine of relaxing and this being something special, but it won't be a psychological reaction because it isn't. You're not making any changes to your brain. That's a really, really bad explanation. I'm really sorry, but and this is also only a view. I don't actually have any scientific proof, so you might have to go and look that up. But I suspect we've all got habits like around eating and doing certain things, like and brushing our teeth at certain times of the day that are quite habitual, and we associate certain things with routines and certain feelings with routines. But there isn't any changes going on in your brain. There might be few physiological changes from the ingredients that you're ingesting, but there isn't going to be that same hitting of the pleasure centres that alcohol does to your brain. So I suspect the associations will be different and not hard to break. Does that make some sense? Okay. I guess, yes, you can make an association. You can make an association with always having yoghurt for breakfast, but it's not a dependency. You're not going to be... you're not psychologically changing your brain. It's worth us finding out more about it though, so I will go and have a look at that and talk to UC. But I suspect it's the habit more than the substance. I also want to talk a bit about de-alcoholized products, because there is a difference between something that's non-alcoholic. So there are most of the alcohol-free beers coming onto the market are brewed to be not alcoholic. They have been brewed with no alcohol in. And then there are de-alcoholized products. So a lot of the alcohol-free wines that you find, like the Torres, is a de-alcoholized wine. It's made with alcohol in, and then it uses centrifugal force to take the alcohol out. There's two ways to do it: centrifugal force, spinning it round and round and round, and heat to help take alcohol out.
Osmosis.
Oh no! Quick, come here, Yusi. Come and tell people.
Osmosis.
Yusi says it's osmosis. When I listened, right, on Simon Mayo, they said it was twisting. It was spinning, extraction.
But there's also osmosis.
What's osmosis method?
It gets through a thin layer of something.
Oh, or there's the osmosis method, where it goes through lots of layers of something to extract the alcohol. Okay, so there's 3 ways of doing it. Oh, gosh, it's like a backseat webinar driver. And there's even some non-alcoholic beers that are made with like 15% alcohol in order to extract the alcohol from it, in order to give you that mouthfeel of alcohol. So the de-alcoholized wines, although I find them quite weird because they do have a mouthfeel, like they've got alcohol in them, they mess with my mind slightly, because I'm thinking, am I drinking, am I not? And my mind starts to trigger off all sorts of associations. And that's partly because there was alcohol in it once, and so it creates a very different texture and smell and feel. A lot of the beers are not just being brewed with alcohol in, so like the milk stout that I did the review of a couple of weeks ago, no alcohol brewed into it to begin with. Okay, I'm just checking some things. Thank you, Jules. Semi-permeable membrane osmosis, thank you. Cool. Okay, so that's a bit about what de-alcoholized is. The other is to talk to you a bit about what alcohol-free is, and this is a long debate and people ask often. And I'm giving you, so anything up to 0.5%, you do not need an alcohol license to sell. Although most of those beers and wines will still be in the alcohol section, you'll still have to be age checked to buy them. Really annoying, but there we are. Labelling laws in the UK are old and archaic, so 0.05% can be called alcohol-free, but 0.5% could be called has to be called low alcohol, mainly because in the past it was because an item was de-alcoholized, and so actually the labelling law only talks about de-alcoholized. It's not caught up with modern techniques. If a 0.5% beer comes from Germany, it can be called alcohol-free. But here it has to be called low alcohol. So the labelling's a bit all over the place. My view is that a 0.5% drink, you will process the alcohol quicker than you would drink it. Won't give you a hangover, although if you drink 5 pints of anything, the chances are you will feel the impact of having drunk 5 pints of fluid. You won't go over the limit because you won't have processed it, it won't be in your bloodstream. And so I consider those alcohol-free beers. If you're totally going totally AF, not wanting any substitutes, then don't do it. I'm not telling you to do something, I'm just trying to give you some information. So these are choices that you can make, but certainly if you've got a choice between a beer that's 4 or 5% and one that's 0.5%, the one that you want to go for is 0.5%. And I think Jules is sharing some thank you, de-alcoholized things. Thank you. The other thing to talk about is sugar. So the reason why I'm quite passionate about alcohol-free beers, having never been a beer drinker when I was drinking, is that they are made with 3 ingredients: the hops or the wheat or whatever, water, and what 3 ingredients are beers made with, you see?
Malt, hops, yeast.
Malt, hops, yeast. I knew that. I knew there's 3 ingredients. They don't add any sugar in. And even the de-alcoholized wines don't have sugar added in. They've both got naturally higher sugars, but we're talking 1 gram as opposed to you know, what could be masses of grams in a sugary drink. So again, these are choices that you need to make. Read the label. This is about you and your drinking choices. And if you're on a diet as well, then a bottle of Nanny State is 26 calories, no added sugar. Then that may be a choice for you for other reasons, not just about the alcohol. Is Nanny State any good? If you're an ale drinker, I think you might quite like it. It's got quite a perfumey nose. I'm still not, you can ask various members actually and throw it out to the membership about Nanny State, but I'll come back to where you might buy some beers from and get a mixed case to try out. But again, this is all about your taste buds. We are all very different now that we've given up drinking, whereas before we would have all just gone for the bottle of wine that somebody recommended. We're now much fussier. If you've not noticed that, we would have brought a 6-pack of beer not knowing whether we liked that beer or not when we were drinking because it had alcohol in. Now we won't buy a 6-pack of beer unless we know we definitely like it. It's funny psychology, isn't it? Okay, so de-alcoholization, alcohol-free, sugar. The other thing I also get slightly pissed off about in the alcohol-free sector is everyone getting overly excited about mocktails. Now, mocktails are great, but you wouldn't make a cocktail at home normally. So why will you make a mocktail at home? You aren't going to naturally have all of those ingredients at home. More likely is you might want to find a substitute for mixing something with a tonic, which is more likely, or a 2-ingredient mixer. So when you're looking for and Googling for alcohol-free alternatives, go for something with tonic or something with fizzy water. For example, an Aperol Spritz, you may have seen, everyone was mental over it over the summer, they did lots of advertising, is Aperol and Prosecco. So it makes quite an alcoholic concoction, but you can actually have a very small bit of Aperol, top it all the way up with fizzy water or lemonade, and it comes in at about 0.5%. So you can make a very, very weak version of it. Equally, Crodino, which is a sans bitter, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end of the sentence, tastes exactly the same as Aperol. Because Aperol is just a very bitter drink and you can actually recreate that quite easily in a non-alcoholic alternative. So you can go and find Crodino or Sans bitters. So Italians do non-alcoholic versions of their bitter drinks, and you can buy them. There's a place called Nisa Life, N-I-S-A Life, online. And if you type in Sans bitters, you can get 3 colours. You can get Crodino, which is an orange drink, and you can sometimes get it in Carluccio's as well. And that's just like an Aperol, tastes just like Aperol. You probably wouldn't know the difference. I like to make it into a long drink, and sometimes I like to have it short on the rocks because I sometimes drink a long drink very quickly, whereas that I drink a lot slower. They also do a clear one, which is very bitter, which is great to top up with lemonade, or a red one. So there you go. You know, already there are other countries that make non-alcoholic versions of some of their favourite drinks. Right. Candice, you asked me about the Aperol. Literally, bitters is an interesting topic altogether, so I'm going to touch on that now. I've got some drinks to show you as well. In every cocktail, they have bitters, and the most popular in the UK is Angostura bitters. Most pubs have it. And it is a very distilled botanical flavouring that, because it's very highly distilled and uses alcohol in its extraction, is alcoholic. But if you were to have a bitters and tonic, you would have probably 3 or 4 drops of bitters, teeny tiny amount. And so your drink as a whole, because you'd have then topped it up with a tonic, has got hardly any alcohol in. An Aperol, you'd probably have a single shot, so it's slightly bigger, and so it comes in at about 0.5% if you top it up in volume with fizzy water or lemonade. In the same way as a shandy, you weaken a beer totally if you have like a quarter of beer and topped up with lemonade. It reduces the percentage of that alcohol in there altogether. But a bitters and tonic is hardly any alcohol at all, and it's one of the most easiest drinks to get in a UK pub anyway, because there's always Angostura bitters. Then the minute you go into a pub that's got a lot of cocktail making, one of my favourite is a cherry bitters in tonic. And so and you can buy little, lovely little cases which have got tiny little tasters of lots and lots and lots of bitters. And then you could just get one of those for Christmas and just try out different things with tonic. I quite like drinking tonic when I'm out and about, because I drink tonic much slower than I would drink a fizzy drink, for example, because it just takes longer to drink. I don't find it as easy to pick up and drink. Definitely the bitters is amazing. Definitely, Martin, I'm not saying you shouldn't do cocktails, and definitely over Christmas, mocktails is a great thing to try. But there's a difference between what you might try for Christmas as a special thing and what you happen to have in the fridge at the time when you've got an instant urge. It's not a quick drink to make. Equally, it might be the thing that takes you over that 20-minute barrier when you're thinking of having a drink, going, right, I've got some botanicals in and so on. So I highly recommend getting in a little taster pack of bitters. You can buy them all over the place, definitely on Amazon as well. You can also buy, like I said, you can buy lots of, if you think about it, Coke and lemonade and a bottle of fizzy elderflower. What they are all in essence is a cordial already mixed up for you. That's all it is. So a Coke, the gun at the pub, which has got the Coke on it, is basically the cordial in a box at the bottom that gets mixed as it comes out the tube with fizzy soda, which is why there's always soda on tap, fizzy water on tap in a pub, right? It's just a cordial. That's all it is. So that's why I recommend that you just take your own cordial, small shampoo bottle of cordial to the pub yourself and mix it with water, because that's basically nearly every single pre-mixed soda in the fridge is a cordial mixed up with water. But that also means you could get loads of cordials in yourself into your house, and there are loads of really lovely craft companies, and all the craft fairs over the Christmas and all the farm shops have all got really fancy pants cordials in, and just go a bit mad. You can even do mixes of the two and then top it up with water. Again, don't take up a lot of room in the fridge. They're really easy to put in a shampoo bottle and take to the pub. Don't mix it up with your shampoo when you go on holiday, though. I think I might have done that once. But anyway, so again, you know, don't limit yourself. You can get all of this stuff in the cupboard. Cool. So I recommend cordials. Cordials also do make a good base, like bitters, for a cocktail. So you might find that putting in a slug of elderflower, some apple juice, and topping it up with water, fizzy water, makes a really lovely apple mojito, for example, and then stuffing loads of mint in it. So don't underestimate cordials as an ingredient in their own right. We forget sometimes that they don't only have to come in pints and be glugged by small children. There are, you know, adult alternatives and more adult flavours out there that you can go for. You can even stick some bitters in to take the sweetness down. Okay, then so let me just show you some things that I've got here, because this is an excuse for me to just have loads of drinks. So first of all, some of us have talked about this. This is Botonique, and the lovely lady Hilary who makes this, I'm very fond of, and she's very nice to club soda, and we like people who are nice to club soda. And she's made this. It's really low in calorie. It's got very little sugar in it. It's actually 76% sparkling water. So I tell you what, this, you know, the cordial thing, 76% water. So this bit here is the ingredients. It's got some pear juice in it as well. And then it's got lots of, it's got a herbal mix in it, which gives it a herbally taste. And I quite like it because it's not heavy at all. It's not, and so look, sugar hasn't got any sugar in it. It's got it's got the pear juice concentrate, which gives it its sweetness. So it's not very sweet, and it's got a sort of a perfumely herbally smell, which I also quite like, because it doesn't associate it with being a fizzy, childish drink to me. And I quite like it. I'm not a pear liker, so I'm surprised that I like this, but I think the pear just gives it a bit of sweetness. And so I would recommend getting this, and it's not too expensive a bottle, and you can buy it direct on her website, and I will share that with you later. And it is quite dry, still quite sweet, because again, it's not been you know, brewed or stuck in a barrel for 20 years or whatever. So it's still got a natural sweetness to it. But certainly if you were to compare that with a Coke or lemonade, it knocks the spots off it. It does feel very nice. It looks lovely in a glass. And that's something that you would want to protect from, you know, the guzzling children over Christmas, and make sure they don't drink your special stuff. So that, I think, is definitely worth having. So, I'm emptying the glass, right? Maybe. I need it for the next drink. I might have poured too big a slug. The other is, we talked a bit about ginger on the group this week. Some of the gingery drinks that come out. Now, these are quite syrupy and quite sugary. And this has actually got sugars, 14.7 grams of sugar per 100 mils. Weird back of the label here. It's about 15.5 grams and 100 mils. I can't work out right. Anyway, but I like these because these, again, these ginger drinks are really good topped up long with fizzy water. Thanks, guys. You're all really lovely. They are also really good as an ingredient in a mocktail. So if you were going to go for an alcohol-free mojito, you could do a ginger mojito. So, you know, stick this in loads of mint and stuff, and I'll put some ingredients, some recipes out for you on this as well later. I also like this on the rocks, so you can, you know, pour it out like a spirit, put it in a glass. It actually looks like it might be whiskey or something, and it's got a strong ginger hit, so you don't drink it quickly, and you can get some really fiery ones. Look, it's got a granny on the front, so it must be fiery. This is the original, but actually the really fiery ones, you know, ginger's the nearest to giving you that astringent hit that you might get from alcohol. So these are on special offer, I think, at the minute in Holland and Barrett. Somebody was showing the other day. I then, what else was I doing? Right. I feel like I'm doing this way thing. I've now got my thermos out because I've heated up some Beaver, which also you might call Belvoir, new Christmas punches. Now, between you and me, we don't like Beaver very much because every time we ask them for some freebies to give out to you lot, they're really tight. But they have got loads of drinks out at the minute, including some of their own versions of wines, which we're going to review next week. But I wanted to try some hot stuff because some of you were talking about not being able to, that smell of a mulled wine as one of your triggers, and what do you do instead? Well, I can tell you that when these are cooking on the stove, they do not smell as strong as a mulled wine because there's no alcohol burning or heating up. So I had a little look at that earlier. I'd had to really stick my nose over the pan. It didn't work quite the same. This is their, you see, could you get me the bottles, please? I think Yusi might be a bit annoyed with me now. It's not looking happy. Anyway, so this is their red one. Thank you, Yusi. You're a really good assistant. This is how Martha Stewart started. No, he's not going with it. He's not going with it. This is their mulled winter punch. It's a very Christmassy label. And again, oh, it's a bit underwhelming actually. It has, I mean, again, the second biggest ingredient after water is sugar, which is a bit disappointing because actually there is grape juice in there, but it's not from concentrate, they say. Elderberry juice and some cloves, not too strong cloves though, I must say, just in case you were wondering, Joe. But you know what? I think you could probably make your own a bit better. It's not very citrusy actually, and I think it could do with some more slightly Christmassy flavours if it's really going to be a replacement for your mulled wine. But it's warm and it's satisfying and it's not a herbal tea, and so if you put a pan of this on next to whatever else you might be doing for anyone else, like a mulled wine, then, you know, it would certainly hit the spot. If you feel you need to have that reddish, berryish, clovish, Christmassy thing, then it'll do. I'm not going to call it Belinda. They'll never send me any free stuff ever again when they see this review. The other one I've got here is their spiced ginger punch. La la. Right. Oops. So what does Belinda says? Mull spices with AF wine, a splash of the Granny ginger, served hot in a good mulled wine decoy. Skip the ginger and add fresh ginger slices. Absolutely. I think some of these you can make better yourself. So definitely go with Belinda's advice. Ooh, ooh. That isn't how I expected it to taste. All right, who wants these next week? Any of you going to the social? I'll bring these next week. I must say I really like hot ginger because it gives you a punch, but this adds lots of sugar without it being necessary. I think I'd want a little bit more ginger. Although ginger is at least the second biggest ingredient at 17%. It is quite a bit of orange juice. It's growing on me. It's not seedlip. Okay, so those are some things that I had here today. We've got some more things I'm going to try and share with you over the next week. I have got a special glass. Look, these are Yusi's wine glasses. I didn't bring any wine glasses with me when I moved here. So these are Yusi's and I don't use them. It's a very special glass because I'm not actually allowed access to glass in this house very often because I break it, basically, even though I'm sober. So Yusi's let me have this one for this webinar. That's how special that is. So how else can you find your favourite Christmas tipple? Well, first of all, do look online. So you can go on Dry Drinker and use the new code Club Soda VIP and get a discount and get a mixed case. Try some stuff out. If you don't like it, it's not the end of the world. You can give it to somebody else. You can give it as a gift. You can save it for a colleague who gets pregnant, isn't sure what to drink. You can give it to Jo to go with her stash that she's got in a big cupboard. You know, you haven't wasted anything by trying. And I know that we were sort of conditioned not to waste anything, and particularly when we were drinking alcohol, we would never waste anything. But now's the time for you to go, okay, I gave that a go, I don't like it, I've got some bottles left over, I'll do something else with it. So that's the first thing. Try some mixed cases. Go to the alcohol-free shop, do try the de-alcoholized wines. Just like with alcoholic wines, you get what you pay for. So if you get a Torres wine, which you can get a non-alcoholic wine both on the alcohol-free shop and in Sainsbury's, or you get a Frey, or even Ebony Vale, they cost like £5.99, £6.99. They are far better than Sainsbury's non-alcoholic wine replacement, which actually has never been, is a mix of things to taste like wine as opposed to being made like a wine. It doesn't mean that they're not nice. Like I said, everyone's different, but if you're looking for a de-alcoholized wine, you do get what you pay for, and like the Carl Young Fizzy is pretty nice. You know, if you're going to go for a fizzy replacement, like I said, it plays with my mind a little bit. You may go mad with cordials. Nettle cordial, for example, so made from stinging nettles, tastes a bit like Chardonnay. You can top it up with fizzy water or get it in your soda stream. You can also add some other ingredients to it to soften it for you if you don't want it so sweet, but it creates a nice base actually for what would normally be wine-based cocktails. I also, as well as bitters, I really like grenadine. And normally in a pub, if you go in and say, I want a grenadine and tonic, that also goes really well. Grenadine's a pomegranate molasses type cordial. You get less often, but again, it's slightly more bitter, so it goes really well with the tonic and it doesn't taste so sweet. So share some ideas on the group. Now, I've got one other, oh God, I've been going 45 minutes. I've got one other challenge for you, which comes from Belinda, and I know Belinda's watching. which is that Belinda has found, was saying yesterday at the lunch, that she's found if she adds a couple of drops, so anything between 2/3 to 1 teaspoonful of cider vinegar into her alcohol-free wine, it takes away a lot of the sweetness and makes it a lot more drinkable. She sometimes tops it up with fizzy water too. I wondered if some of you might have some alcohol-free wines, and actually I've got some in the office, and if I'd known about this, I'd have brought it in and we would have tried it today. But over the next week, if any of you got an alcohol-free wine that you've got in the fridge that you've not really been devouring, or you think is a bit too sweet, we thought we would try that challenge, and I think Belinda's tried it with whites but not with reds yet. So the challenge is to do Belinda's vinegar challenge, to put a few drops of vinegar, a cider vinegar, into your wine and see if that helps in terms of drinkability and reducing the sweetness. It may actually also work in other things. And as Belinda rightly points out, you can always add more, but you can't take any away. So you might want to start with a few drops and see how it goes for you. I suspect there's a lot of personal taste here. And then do explore the internet and share really good places you found. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Square Root, and so I did a review on our group a couple of weeks ago of they did a special gin rhubarb, which had a non-alcoholic gin equivalent in it made by a local pub. I really liked it. It comes in a champagne pot, or they only do small batch sodas. They've only made a small number of them to celebrate their 500th flavour. But they've got their Sicilian lemon and all of their flavours. They've got 4 different flavours of tonic, for example. So you don't actually need to put anything else in the tonic. They are beautifully flavoured themselves. I highly recommend going to squarerootsoda.co.uk and ordering something special from there. And like I said, I'm keeping hold of my wit shandy small banger. They've also got another one which is Chop the Twigs, which is really limey, and it's got a tiny little bit of beer in it, but mainly it feels like a limey shandy. Be curious, go and look online, but most of all share with each other, and don't be upset if you've ordered something and you don't like it, because that's going to be part of your journey. It's part of the process, and finding your drink for Christmas can be part of your distraction too. Any other questions you can come back and ask. Thanks, Emmy, for laughing at me. Fine, whatever. I'm going to sit here now and finish off all of these drinks. I'm actually not going to finish off the Belvoir Beaver ones. I didn't particularly like them. But do ask any other questions you've got about drinks. I've got a few blogs I can share with you. But I would like you all to just share advice with each other, because finding new things to drink, I think, is sometimes one of the hardest things, but it's one of the greatest and easiest gifts that we can share with each other. And that's a great way of giving to each other over this Christmas, which is to find your favourite Christmas tipple. Cool. All right. I'll speak to you soon, guys. Bye.